all-knowing and all-powerful, starting with the elderly wolf uncle. Chapter 68. Since I brought you here, I will ensure that you are safe and sound. Said. Chen Tian set his eyes on Wanda and Laura, and his tone was not hurried. I'll take you to the amusement park tomorrow. He was talking as he spoke. Professor Charles and Logan were both stunned for a moment. Having experienced countless winds and waves, the two of them felt some completely different changes. Even in this kind of emergency, it is inexplicably reassuring. It seemed that Chen Tian in front of him had completed some kind of sublimation. Chen, something must have happened in the past 2 days since it disappeared. Logan wondered keenly in his heart. The other side. Chen Tian finished his words without hurry. Chen, Wanda looked at him, her big eyes full of worry. Laura also came over and tugged at his sleeves. It's okay, don't worry. Chen Tian said softly. The voice fell. Rise. His figure flashed suddenly, turning into a blurry afterimage and disappearing in place, leaving only a strong wind hovering in the room. Half a minute ago at the western wall of the manor. Several figures in black uniforms, cautiously holding daggers, almost all of them had time, stepping on the steps that were almost silent. Approached the guards who approached Kim and arranged by the wall. One by one, several black figures circled around at the same time, and instantly attacked. Covering his mouth, the dagger flashed with cold light, cut the throat, and it was done in one go. Outside the western wall of the manor, all the bodyguards died silently at the same time. And those figures, at this time, turned into the manor wall. These people are none other than the SHIELD task force. Each of them is a top special soldier with all kinds of abilities. And when they sneaked into the estate, outside the estate, not far away, in a bright black SUV, Coulson stared at the picture on the screen in front of him with a serious expression. The picture played in front of them was the first perspective captured by the camera on the helmet of those task force members. He looked at these task forces, getting closer and closer to Chen Tian's manor, and his eyes narrowed slightly. Disperse, watch out for each other. This manor is inhabited by the most dangerous mutants. You have to be very careful not to alarm them. Coulson clasped his hands together and whispered instructions to the contingent. Boom. Just as he was looking at the screen with full attention, one of the perspectives suddenly shook violently, and then looked up towards the pitch-black sky. You can see through the lower edge of the picture that a pillar of blood is spraying hard into the sky, and then it turns into a rain of blood and falls. Soon the entire camera was turned red, and the picture turned red. When Coulson saw this scene, his pupils suddenly shrank and his breathing stagnated. Someone died. And everything happened only in an instant. The dead contingent members, without resistance, died quietly. He even suspected that the task force member had not reacted at all. Damn it. What the hell is going on here? Where is he? Next second, with people dying. You can see that on the screen, all the first-person pictures began to rotate wildly, as if looking for the person who just shot. The contingent members also began to scold eagerly. One of the images stopped on the task force member who had just fallen to the ground. When Coulson saw the corpse on the screen, his heart couldn't help but stop. I saw the corpse that fell on its back, all the flesh and blood and trachea in the throat, all disappeared, and there was a big gap in the neck. Blood flowed under him, staining the ground red. Tear your throat in an instant? This is obviously not killed by psychic ability. But apart from the spiritual ability, it seems that no one in Chen Tian's group has this ability. Coulson wondered. Meanwhile, ugh, another scream. One of the pictures suddenly went black. On the screen, all the cameras shake, monies, and turn to the second deceased. It can be seen that the second dead task force, with his head and helmet, was violently penetrated and deformed by something. Blood-brain flour flowed all over the place. See this scene. On the screen in front of Coulson, all the task force members had cameras on their heads, and the footage they captured stopped. Then, all the pictures are turned in one direction. There stood an oriental boy with a well-proportioned figure, a beautiful face, bloodstains on his hands, and calm eyes. Hit. Fack. Through the screen, Coulson heard the people of the task force roared, and all raised their guns. However, no fire has been fired yet. The next moment, the oriental boy in the center of all the pictures suddenly flashed, turned into a blurry afterimage, and disappeared in place. Subsequently, one by one, the picture began to turn black suddenly. Coulson stared at the picture, his eyes wide, unable to see where the person who started was. I can only watch the picture. Every second there is a contingent of people who fall more than 10 seconds later. Swish. The last remaining contingent member was already frightened, threw the gun directly, turned and ran. But not 2 steps yet. Poof. On his helmet, the camera shot back the picture, suddenly paused. Coulson, who stared at the screen, jumped out of the corner of his eye. I saw the camera picture taken outside, and began to slowly turn down, the camera of the task force. A hand was photographed, running from the back of his heart to his chest. That hand stained his chest and pinched a heart that was still beating. Fack. Coulson sat in the car and watched this scene. His face was pale and angry and he cursed, and the whole person couldn't stop shaking. Next second, the arm on the screen was withdrawn from the task force's chest. Boom. Muffled. The car in which Coulson was riding shook suddenly, his eyes widened and he slowly raised his head, his pupils shaking. Something fell on the roof of the car. First chapter, previous chapter 68, 186, next chapter, tale, table of contents.